ceasefire to attack rebels, and the West responds with military action.
We are answering the calls of a threatened people, and we are acting in the interests of the United States and the world.
We are intervening in order to enable the Libyan people to choose its own destiny.
Also today, a strong aftershock hits Japan as engineers pump tons of seawater into the stricken nuclear reactors. And Prince William heads from far north Queensland to suburban Brisbane on his tour of flood-hit areas. Good morning, you're watching ABC News 24, I'm Nick Grimm. Let's check the weather around the capitals first, and there'll be some heavy showers for Sydney, some rain about Brisbane, Canberra and Melbourne, showers and storms for Darwin, and fine in the rest of the capitals. Military intervention has begun in Libya to enforce a UN-mandated no-fly zone. Here are some of the main points this morning. The US military has launched more than 100 cruise missiles targeting more than 20 targets, including Libyan air defence systems. France says its jets are patrolling the skies over Libya, firing on a pro-Gaddafi military vehicle that it says was threatening civilians. Colonel Gaddafi has recently given a speech vowing to fight what he says is colonial aggression. US President Barrack Obama says the Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi will learn that his actions have consequences, and the British Prime Minister David Cameron says the international community has an obligation to protect the Libyan people.
Tonight, British fighter jets taking off from an RAF base. For operational reasons, we're not allowed to say which base this is or how many aircraft are involved. But the Prime Minister has confirmed that the UK has formally started exerting military pressure on the regime of Colonel Gaddafi.
Tonight, British forces are in action over Libya. They are part of an international coalition that has come together to enforce the will of the United Nations and to protect the Libyan people. We have all seen the appalling brutality that Colonel Gaddafi has meted out against his own people. And far from introducing the ceasefire he spoke about, he has actually stepped up the attacks and the brutality that we can all see.
The role of the British forces in Libya isn't confined to its aircraft. A British submarine has also been in action, firing missiles in a joint mission with the Americans.
Earlier this afternoon, over 110 Tomahawk cruise missiles fired from both U.S. and British ships and submarines struck more than 20 integrated air defense systems and other air defense facilities ashore.
But so far, Gaddafi supporters in the capital, Tripoli, remain defiant, as does the regime itself.
You will regret it if you take the step towards intervening in our internal affairs, the affairs of our country. It is indeed our country. It is not your country. We could never and we would never fire one bullet against our people.
However, in the east of the country, where the rebels have been holding out, the arrival of the Western forces is being greeted with joy and relief. The popular uprising here, which had seemed on the verge of being crushed, has new life.
Well, for more on this story, we're joined now by Washington correspondent Jane Cohen. Hello again. Jane, the Pentagon and the US government have been giving details about its command of this operation. What's the extent of the US involvement?
Well, this is what's interesting, Nick, because the US has been at pains all along to emphasise that it is in no way leading this intervention in Libya and that it's really operating only as part of an international effort led by others like France and Britain. But when you listen to the Pentagon officials talk, and even Barrack Obama admitting now the US is at the leading edge of this intervention, the Pentagon says that this Operation Odyssey Dawn is under the control of an American commander at this stage, although they are emphasising that this is the early stages of a multi-phased operation and that the intention is for the US to hand over command to a coalition command in coming days.
It had appeared that the US was intending to take a bit of a backseat role. Barrack Obama was in visiting Brazil. How's he been playing the situation?
Well, he's definitely been still trying to cast himself as a reluctant commander-in-chief. He says that military intervention was not something that the US ever wanted, and he's really been casting it as something the US has been forced to do when faced with a tyrant who, after all, said that he would show no mercy against his own people. And he is still promising, particularly a message for the American public, that he will not put American troops on the ground in Libya. And he definitely still wants the international community to know that the US footprint in this conflict will be kept as small as possible. Let's have a listen to some of what the US President Barrack Obama has said today.
As a part of this effort, the United States will contribute our unique capabilities at the front end of the mission to protect Libyan civilians and enable the enforcement of a no-fly zone that will be led by our international partners. And as I said yesterday, we will not, I repeat, we will not deploy any U.S. troops on the ground. As Commander-in-Chief, I have great confidence in the men and women of our military who will carry out this mission. They carry with them the respect of a grateful nation. I'm also proud that we are acting as part of a coalition that includes close allies and partners who are prepared to meet their responsibility to protect the people of Libya and uphold the mandate of the international community. I have acted after consulting with my national security team and Republican and Democratic leaders of Congress. And in the coming hours and days, my administration will keep the American people fully informed. But make no mistake, today we are part of a broad coalition. We are answering the calls of a threatened people, and we are acting in the interests of the United States and the world.
And the Americans have been